Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Alma, and this week I'm sharing tips on how to stylize a character that represents you doing what you love, what makes you happy. I'll be creating in the app Procreate on the iPad, but you could easily use a few of my tips for drawing in your sketchbook if you prefer. I love baking cakes, not anything fancy, just delicious cakes with buttery frosting. You can use a photo of yourself doing your favorite activity, but I'll be using a reference photo from Pexels instead because their photos are really inspiring to me. You can download a free photo as well. Once you hit free download, you can decide what app it will open in. I will select Procreate and the photo will go directly to my app. Now you can make a donation to the artist if you'd like. I sometimes do when I can. It's a great way to support artists who inspire us. So once the photo opens up in Procreate, I'm actually going to save this image to my photo files. So I'm just going to hit the wrench in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to hit share, and then I will select PNG so that it saves as a PNG in my photo files, and now I have it as my reference. I'm deleting the photos that I had Procreate save for me because I already have the photo in my photo files, and this way it takes up less space in my Procreate app. I'm going to hit the plus sign and I'm going to select a 12 by 12 inch canvas, and it will be in RGB. And here you can see that it is a square, and I like to create art in a square format because I can easily share it to Instagram. Hit the wrench and hit add, insert a photo, and then go find your photo that you have in your photo files. I'm going to make my photo smaller by hitting the S tool and selecting the rectangle tool below, and I'm just going to make what I'm looking at into a square. I don't need the upper information. Then I swipe 3 fingers, I hit cut and paste, and then I can delete the layer that cut and pasted the tile work in the background. So this way she just fits nicely in the corner, and I can then use her as a reference. Now here's my number one tip for doing a gesture drawing easily. I will make a new layer, and I'm going to use just my 6B pencil in a color that you'll be able to see, and I'm going to draw directly on this photo so that I can get a sense of the action lines of her body. I'll start with the shoulders first, and you can see that they're quite at an angle, and her body is slightly curved as well. Then once I have those 2 lines in, I'm going to add her head, and then I will add her limbs. Now this is just as a jumping off point for my character, and I can see now that my character is going to have a little bit of a curve and again that angle shoulder. Now I'm going to bring that photo back into the corner, and I'm going to copy those gesture lines exactly as I see them, and this is how I will begin to draw my character. I find that this is a very easy way to draw characters accurately from reference photos, and then I will begin the process of stylizing. Give yourself the flexibility to do as many drafts as you need. This first draft I'm just penciling in as I see this character. I definitely want my character to be more robust than the person I'm seeing in the photo. My next tip is to exaggerate your character one side to the other. So for example, the left side as you're looking at my character has a corner shoulder, whereas the right side as you're looking at her is more rounded. And even though her hair will be covering part of her shoulder, there is a much bigger, wider space on the left-hand side than there is on the right-hand side. And it just sort of subconsciously makes the character asymmetrical and a little more interesting in terms of an artwork. Even though the reference photo has her hair in front of her shoulders, I am going to have her hair in back of her one shoulder and then in front of her other shoulder. And you can see at the top of her head it's a little more squared off, and this also adds contrast against the rounded parts of her hair. To add color and to add interest, I like using a base color. In this example, I'll be using hot pink, and then I'll be coloring her on different layers, all over different body parts. And you'll see that my approach is a little bit messy, and that is intentional. I want to actually see that pink coming through all the layers, including her skin. Later, I'm going to re-outline her using a dark red color instead of the black sketch, and so I want to make sure that there's a little bit of the hot pink coming through as well. So right now when I'm coloring, I'm not coloring over the black line. This will make more sense as you see this develop. I didn't position the lower hand correctly, so I need to redo it. So what you'll see me do here is I'm using the selection tool to adjust the position of her hand. I'm not having to redraw the whole thing, and I will correct each layer, and this is why it's a good idea to put all of the different colors on their own layer, and also sometimes I'll do all the body parts. She's a very simple character, so it's pretty easy to correct this, but you can see just switching her hand position so it looks like she's holding the tube of frosting correctly. Here I've begun the outlining process, so it's just a darker red, and I really love using this as a style. I feel like it has a little bit more of a retro look to it. So I'm just simply going over the lines, and you can see that our apron is getting a little bit different treatment with the very beigey yellow. Now begin to create all of the different pieces that are telling the story of this particular character, and I'm still looking at the reference photo, but I'm really trying to simplify the shapes because she really is much more casual character, and she doesn't have a lot of details. Her style is coming through with the color and just the rounded shapes, and she's just a cuter character in general. So I've introduced a new color, this really bright green, and so I'm going to make sure to repeat it in the artwork. Once I was happy with the way my character looked, I merged all the layers and then I duplicated so that she's on one layer. And the reason I did that is because I want to have a backup copy of her. You notice that I made her a little bit smaller, and now I'm auditioning different shapes for the table. I didn't want just a plain square or rectangle, and I also wanted it at an angle. And that's also to emphasize the curve of her body a little bit, so everything just feels a little bit wonky and off. And I feel like that just adds to the charm. Here I'm coloring in the table, but I'm also using the eraser. You can see making a fine erase line between the planks of the wood, so it gives the illusion that this is a wood table. I want the cake to be from my imagination, and I want it to be very rounded and, again, simple. I really like how the brown of the table is coming through. It gives sort of the illusion that there's this chocolate cake underneath all of that frosting, and that's just sort of a happy accident. And so I love when those things happen. Also make sure that whatever elements you add to your artwork, you also have them on different layers. I like to do that because I like to change my mind as to where they are placed, and so you'll see me actually move the mixer once I create it across to the other side. So it's important that all these different elements be on their own layer. Now with the table legs, I'm not going to worry about there being 4 of them. I think we understand when we're looking at this artwork, it's implied, right, that it's a table, it has 4 legs, but we don't actually have to draw all 4 of them. Now I'm looking at a blender from Pexels, and I don't want to copy it exactly, so I want to make sure I'm not looking at it when I draw it. I'm just sort of remembering the general shape of it, and I'm going to go ahead and create it in the same color as the frosting bag. So for the background, the most important consideration is that I don't detract from the character. So I am going to put some details in the background, but I don't want to overwhelm it so that we are not focusing on her. So what I've decided to do is color in just a plain tile background, but you can see that I'm making each tile a little bit different in the way that I'm coloring them in. I know that it's a very simple, subtle thing, but it actually does create a little more interest. And you can see too that the tiles are a little off kilter. They're not in straight lines, and that's also intentional. So at this point in the drawing, I'm just repeating the colors that I already have. I don't want to add any new colors, and I'm sort of using the reference photo as a general guide. It's in my head because I looked at it, and now I'm looking at the tool that I have on the left side of my iPad to kind of get inspiration from it. I kept the tools on the wall behind her also as just simple line drawings, because if I had colored them in, they might have drawn too much attention away from her. So I like keeping some of the items transparent, some are colored in, and this way too we see through to the table, and we understand what we're looking at, but we don't have to have every single item colored in. For her eyes, I wanted to make sure they looked like they were looking at what she was doing, so I put her little eyeballs kind of underneath the lid of her eye, and you can see too that I've added some wonky glasses. I like it when the lenses don't match. I also added a little bit more hair on her forehead. I felt like her forehead was too big, and then adding just a simple shadow under her neckline. For the final details, I'm just adding a little stitching on her apron, and then I'll be adding some flowers to her hair, as well as giving the cabinets a little more line work. I hope you found the stepped out process of creating a character you love, doing something that makes you happy, helpful. If you enjoyed this video, I sure would appreciate a thumbs up. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have related to the art you saw today or from my other videos. I hope you have a great week, and happy creating, everyone.